general election. That's 3 days from when I'm recording this. I have been on 7 different interviews or podcasts where I've been asked, is Alberta separation a real threat? And I would have to say yes, it is. But it's not an imminent threat. It's not as though we're going to pick up in Alberta and leave the country right away.
Yeah, like my guess is referendum's gonna happen. Like right now, at the moment I'm making this video, we have 131,000 signatures that are for referendum. So it doesn't mean the separation, but just to start the referendum, right? And then let's say if the referendum passes and Alberta votes for separation, I think we can expect some obstacles from the federal government. They're gonna try to attack it, try to take it to the Supreme Court, and just fight us. So it's not gonna happen that Alberta will separate within 1 month from referendum. But what it's gonna mean for Canada is that the threat that they're gonna separate, or we're gonna separate, because I live in Alberta, is real. And Mark Carney should be very afraid of it, because if Alberta votes it in, there's going to be some other provinces to follow, unless he changes his policies. Right now I heard, I don't know if it's confirmed, I'm going to have to Google it, but apparently Mark Carney increased the carbon tax for coal, like coal mining, right? Which is pretty much BC thing, right? That's how they make most money. And so now most of the coal, I don't know if you know, most of the coal in BC is steel making coal. And what tariffs do we have from President Trump? That's right, tariffs on the steel. So now, not only that you have tariffs on the steel, now you have extra carbon tax on the steel making coal. So not good for BC. And if Alberta will go through this referendum and people will vote in favor of separation from Canada, do you really think BC will stand aside? Do you really think Sask will stand aside? With all of these Carney's policies that are pretty much blocking Alberta, BC, and Sask from making more money of their natural heritage like oil, gas, and coal? I don't think so. Like if Alberta votes the referendum in, it's going to be huge. And don't get me wrong, I don't think it necessarily means that Alberta will separate. I think what's going to happen is that Alberta will deal with Canada, try to negotiate better terms in order, the terms like you're not going to block our gas and oil. We're not going to do all of these ridiculous welfare payments. Like, you're literally sucking all the money from Alberta, but at the same time, you ban us from making more money, right? So my guess is that Alberta will deal with Canada, but at the same time, US. And trust me, US would be happy to have Alberta. They call us Canadian Texas. They call us cousins from Canada. And most of all, Alberta is conservative. Do you really think President Trump would pass on this opportunity? So I think if the referendum will go through, it's gonna become a business deal. Obviously, Alberta, they're still proud Canadians. They will still want to stay with Canada, but with this Liberal government that doesn't have Alberta's back and didn't have our back for 10 years now, they're going to listen to the offers from US. Like, in the end, we have to do what's best for our future, right? Like, young people might not realize this, but once you have family, once you have kids, you look at all politics a little bit differently. Like, it's not about you. It's not about, oh, I will survive this, right? Whatever, 70 more years, I can get rich, whatever. But now you're thinking, what about my kids? What example does this set to my kids? What future they have? And I think Alberta's very logic about this. But anyway, enough yapping. Let's watch this gentleman.
But I've had this one survey thrown in my face several times. It was done by the Angus Reid Institute about 6 weeks ago, and it said Alberta's interest in independence is about the same as the interest in independence in Quebec. It's about 30% in both provinces. And lots of commentators have said, well, it's only 30%. You can't leave the country with only 30%. And look, it's the same as Quebec, and Quebec is in no danger of leaving right away. That's true.
Okay, well, Quebec voted Liberals. I think like half of the Quebec voted Liberals, so I wouldn't expect them to leave. And also, Quebec's threatening about this for a while now. But who's getting most of the welfare payments? Quebec. Do you really think they want to lose all of that money? How would they manage on their own? They wouldn't. But Alberta? How is Canada gonna manage without all of that oil? I don't think so. The situation's reversed.
But think about it this way. In Alberta, there is no independence movement. There's no separatist party. There is no leadership of a separatist movement. And still, the interest in independence is at 30%. If you give Alberta a leader who is interested in independence, you give them a party and a movement that's dedicated to separating from the country, and you give us an issue, you can't say for sure that there won't be a separatist movement that's successful.
I kind of feel like Danielle Smith can end up being our leader. Not gonna lie, from her speech when she's all pissed off, she literally said she's gonna do the best she can for Alberta. And she's proud Canadian, but in the end she's here for Alberta, right? So unless she manages to negotiate with Ottawa so they stopped blocking Alberta from prosperity, I think there's a chance that she would agree with being a leader. And I feel like the people would vote her in. And let's not forget what happened after the election. First, she had a kind of a speech that insinuated that if Ottawa won't change or won't stop blocking Alberta from prosperity, she's gonna do what she has to, right? And I think about a day later, she announced that right now you don't need 600,000 signatures to start a referendum, but it's gonna be just the 10% of the people who vote at the last election. So for this year, it's 177,000. And she even increased the deadline for this petition to start a referendum, which to me sounds very, very like she would be in, I don't want to say in favor of separation. I still think she wants to avoid it as much as she can. But if the situation doesn't change, I think she would agree with it. And I think she might be interested in being a leader. But yeah, we'll see. Again, the signing referendum doesn't necessarily mean that Alberta would leave Canada, okay? Let's just be clear about that.
In Alberta, in a year, in 2 years, in 5 years. That's how serious it is. And I don't think, Jacques Parizeau, who was one time the head of the separatists in Quebec, said that Quebec independence, Quebec sovereignty was an endless trip to the dentist because it was painful, but it never ever ended. I don't think it would take that long if Alberta decided to become independent. Because unlike Quebec, Alberta is not dependent financially on the rest of the country.
Yeah.
So don't take the threat idly. But at the same time, too, Don't dismiss it. Don't say, "Oh, it's never going to happen," or "You should be happy in Canada. Why are you so unhappy in Alberta?" Well, I can tell you that for the last 50 years, more often than not, the federal government has been hostile to Alberta. It has intruded into provincial jurisdiction to try and stop us from doing things that we would like to do, mostly on natural resources, certainly, but sometimes also on education. If it intruded in Quebec the way it intrudes in Alberta, Quebecers would be up in arms even more than they are. But the other difference is, if Quebecers were up in arms, Ottawa would do something about it. They'd say, "Oh my goodness, don't leave. Oh, please, please, please don't leave. We'll do whatever you want in Quebec." When we get uppity in Alberta, the response very often from Ottawa is, "You Albertans are always so dissatisfied. I'm just tired of your whining."
Man, this is ridiculous. I saw some graph that Alberta's paying in last 10 years, Alberta spent the most money that they send on these welfare payments and everything. Pretty much, if you compare it with all other provinces, Alberta spent the most if you put them together. Like, they spent the most than all of the provinces just to support the rest of the Canada. Like, how is that behavior? It's like ungrateful child. Like, Alberta's financially sponsoring the whole Canada, sending all of these welfare payments. Instead of Alberta having like amazing quality of life, they send all the money all around the Canada just so we're all kind of equal. And you're gonna spit in Alberta's face. You're not gonna respect Alberta. It's ridiculous, and you can see why Albertans are pissed. Why Danielle Smith is pissed. Why everyone's pissed.
That is the response that we get, and that is the response that puts people off the most. So what happens if Mark Carney, the newly elected prime minister, says, "Oh, our transition to green technology is going so well. Our green energy plans are so good, producing so many benefits. We don't need another pipeline. We're going to continue on with the Trudeau government's decisions to try and end the oil and gas business." I think that's what he's going to do. I frankly think that's what he's going to do.
Oh yeah, I think he's going to do it as well, especially since Brookfield invested in all of these green projects all around of Alberta, right? And we still don't know what assets Mark Carney still holds in Brookfield. Like, he can literally make money of whatever he does as a prime minister through the Brookfield as well, right? And then at the same time making money with Brookfield buying pipelines in the US. It's just ridiculous. But no, I believe that Mark Carney is going to push on it, because he kept pushing on it as an advisor to Justin Trudeau. Do you really think it's going to change?
He has Stefan Gibo, who was Trudeau's environment minister, a very radical environmentalist, as his lieutenant in Quebec. I think they're going to say at some point, "Oh, well, it just bothers Quebec too much, the idea of having a pipeline there. So it's okay because, our conversion to wind, solar, and bug burps or whatever other other green alternatives they're going to use, it's going so well. We don't need a pipeline. We'll just build an electric grid across the country instead, and that will power the future." Carney, going back to the time when he was governor of the Bank of England, has said most of the oil that's currently in the ground must stay there for the good of the planet. We cannot extract it and burn it. That would be too hard on the environment. So I think you're going to see this fight between Ottawa and Alberta continue. And I think you're going to see Ottawa take a position that the best way for us to fight the American trade threat is for us to get even bigger into green energy, to spend even more money building EV battery plants, even more money with wind turbines and solar panels.
Wait, wasn't it proven that the EV battery plants are really, really bad for environment? Or am I mistaking it with something else?
And we're going to try still as a country to shut down the oil and gas business. Don't try and make it cleaner. It is pretty clean already. We already have amongst the cleanest energy extraction in the world. But don't try and get it better. No, shut it down. For the good of the planet, to make the environmentalists happy.
Again, like for me, the crazy thing is, how do you want to finance this new clean energy grid or infrastructure? Like you want to finance it from taxpayers' money? That's gonna take years, and people will get broke, like even more broke than they are now after 10 years with liberals. But like, wouldn't it be easier to allow Alberta and all of these provinces just to go crazy with mining and oil refineries and all of it, and just tell them, out of all the profit you make, 10% will go on the clean energy. Within 10 years, you have a clean energy grid. Then another thing you need to do, well, you need to make the EVs more accessible. You need to make all of this green energy more accessible to the normal people. Like, can you imagine if their original plan that by 2035 we're not going to have a fossil fueled car? Can you imagine what would happen with the prices we have right now? We would be walking to work. I would have to get up 4 hours earlier and bike to my work just to get there on time. It's ridiculous. Like, you can't just say in 10 years it's going to be like this without any plan how to finance the building of the green energy grid and how to finance the transition for the normal families to go from normal energy like fossil fuels to clean energy, right? Like it's impossible. It's a crazy plan. Like it's only the higher class can do it, but not even the middle class can afford it. Like you can't just go and buy EV right now with the prices we have. Ridiculous.
Shut it down. And we'll work on new green future technologies. And I tell you, at that point, that's the kind of issue that drives Albertans crazy. And we might just decide at some future point that we've had enough. I hope that doesn't happen. I don't want to leave Canada. But Canada has a role to play in helping Alberta stay, just as Alberta has a role in trying to stay.
Yeah.
But at this point, the directions of Ottawa and Alberta are diverging. They're not uniting. And I don't care what Mark Carney says about what a great uniter he's going to be. If he's going to continue the same anti-oil, anti-Alberta, anti-development policies of his predecessors, then he's not going to unite Alberta with Canada.
Oh, yeah.
For Post Media, I'm Lauren Gunter.
Yeah, no, definitely agree. Like, he's absolutely correct. Just one thing, let me see when he filmed it. I think they mentioned it now.
And on 7 different interviews or podcasts, recording this. I have been on 7 different interviews since Monday's general election. That's 3 days from when I'm recording this.
Okay, 3 days. So he recorded it on Thursday. I don't know. I kind of disagree that it's going to take years for Alberta and separation. I think he kind of underestimated how Albertans are pissed with this election. I think he underestimated how people will look up to Danielle Smith and what she's willing to do. Again, she's going to try to negotiate with Ottawa. She's going to try to tell them, stop putting your nose in our business, right? Stop cock blocking us. But yeah, I think she's going to try whatever she can to prevent Alberta separating. However, if the referendum goes through, I have a hope for her to be a leader we need. I think she's going to step up. And I think this gentleman is underestimating how Albertans are pissed with this election. And yeah, ultimately it's all about Mark Carney and Danielle Smith. And I hope Mark Carney will take it seriously, because I don't think anyone wants to leave Canada. Everyone wants Canada to prosper. That's why we went vote, right? Why we hoped the Conservatives will win, so something will change. And unfortunately, they did not win. So now we'll see if Mark Carney was lying or no. But yeah, we'll see. I think it's a real threat that Alberta will separate.